Hey, what's up guys? Thanks for accompanying me on another year-end State of the Watch Collection video. Now, if you followed this channel for some time, you're probably aware that I do have a fairly fluid watch collection, and a lot of that is because I do cycle through a lot of timepieces when reviewing and making content for this channel. But that being said, I do have some keepers in the collection, so the purpose for this video is really just a snapshot in time of where my watch collection ended up at the end of 2022. Now, the way I do want to present these watches to you is through wrist time. So I'm going to be showing you watches that had the most wrist time at the start, and then I'll move backwards to watches that got less wrist time throughout the course of this year. So kicking things off, the watch that I've worn the most this year by far is the one on the wrist today. This is my Grand Seiko SLGH 005, affectionately termed the White Birch. Now, the White Birch was actually released last year in 2021, and it hit on three huge principles for me. The first being the release of the Evolution 9 series of cases, which I found to be a lot more comfortable and having a lower center of gravity, so these watches sit firmly planted on your wrist. The second thing was with the movement. They released a 9SA5 high beat automatic movement that had 80 hours of power reserve, which is crazy when you consider high beat movements tick away at 5 Hertz. And the way this was accomplished is they reworked the escapement to have a dual impulse escapement, making it much more efficient and an accurate watch to boot. And the last thing that really did it for me, and it's the hallmark for Grand Seiko, is that gorgeous dial. It's highly texturized, extremely well finished in combination with the applied markers and the handset, and it grabs and plays with the light like no other timepiece I've ever handled. And for these reasons, dare I say, the White Birch is going to be a keeper in my collection. So the runner-up for the most wrist time received this year is a fairly affordable Casio Worldtime here. And it's a nice digital watch. I really just consider this my daily beater. You can pick these up for around like $20 or $30 Canadian. And what makes it so great is that I do try and be active outside of working, so you can often find me hiking, mountain biking, or hitting the gym. And this digital watch is just very easy to read the time at a quick glance. It has multiple functions, so you can like time events very easily. And of course, they're extremely durable, so you can really give these guys a beating. And at the end of the day, I do think everyone should experience at least one Casio throughout their watch collecting journey. So to round out the top three in terms of watches getting the most wrist time, I have this Tudor Pelagos FXD. This watch I did pick up halfway through this year. I wasn't really anticipating it. I got a call from an authorized dealer that I kind of frequent, and they had one in stock. And what really sets the FXD apart from other divers in the Tudor Pelagos or Black Bay family is that connection to the Marine Nationale. And it does some things that are different, which I really enjoy. Notably, it does have that bi-directional diver's bezel that has a countdown timer instead of an elapsed time, which I prefer using when trying to track events. And it also does have those fixed lugs, or I should say a lack of spring bars. So you can easily swap straps on this watch, but unfortunately you're not going to be able to fashion it to a bracelet. All that being said, wearing this watch on a strap and it being titanium makes it extremely lightweight, and it's a very legible watch too. The lume on all Tudor Pelagos models is insane, and I really appreciate that when it comes to a good diver. So it was only a few months ago when I actually picked up my very first Zenith watch, and for me, I was lucky enough to land on a Zenith Chronomaster Sport. This is the Panda colorway here, and I handled this watch at my favorite authorized dealer a couple months ago. I was really blown away by the finishing of this particular watch, and of course, the upgraded El Primero movement inside this watch is also very nicely done. It can track 1/10 of a second, which is more high horology than being practical. But at the end of the day, it also wears very nice. It's not as thick as other chronographs on the market as well. And it's definitely not going to be the last Zenith I pick up in the future. All right, I'm going to move back to Grand Seiko, and this is actually quite a rare find. This is my Grand Seiko SBGX 117. This watch was developed right before Grand Seiko became a separate entity from Seiko. That's why you do see the dual branded logo. And to me, it's a sleeper hit because at that time, these were more considered for a JDM market and not for North Americans. I was fortunate enough to buy this off of a fairly local watch enthusiast. And this is Grand Seiko's first 9F quartz diver. There's no date complication, so it's a very symmetrical looking watch. And what I really enjoy about this particular watch is the font that's used on the diver's bezel. It's large and aggressive, and you don't see it on other Grand Seiko divers on the market. And lastly, it's slightly more compact compared to current Grand Seiko models. It's sub 44 millimeters in diameter, it's not as thick, and it wears quite comfortably, even on the supplied bracelet. Now, there were a lot of GMT releases in 2022. Arguably the best one, and my personal favorite this year, it goes to the Longines Zulu time. And I have the green and gilt colorway for this Longines, which really throws off a lot of warm tones. And I really appreciate that. And to boot, it's a nice pilot watch with those bold Arabic numerals. It's nicely finished, and you're getting Longines' new in-house true Traveler's GMT movement. That's also a certified chronometer for around $3,000 US. You can't really go wrong with this particular watch. It also pairs very well with a host of different straps that I have currently on hand. Now, if I'm going for robustness and wrist presence, then I'm usually throwing on my Breitling SuperOcean. Now, if you followed my channel for a while, you're probably aware that I started off with the 42 millimeter SuperOcean with the tri-Arabic numerals, which is the outgoing generation. Then I transitioned to the current generation, that's the no date one, with the slow motion type of hands and that funky looking chapter ring. And then I actually went back to this current version. This is a 44 millimeter blue colorway. I just really miss the tri-Arabic dial and having the date complication. This one is also water resistant to 1,000 meters, which is absolutely insane. And I just love this watch. It wears like a tank. So one of the watches that I've owned the longest is my Rolex Explorer. This is the discontinued 39 millimeter iteration of the watch. I think 39 millimeters is the perfect size. And the current generation of the Explorer, while having some nice refinements, I do think it's a little bit small at 36 millimeters for my wrist size. I mean, Rolex just nailed this watch in terms of wearability. To me, the Explorer 39 millimeters is like bacon. It just goes with everything, and you don't have to worry about it. It just does its job. And for that reason, I think this Explorer is going to be a keeper in the collection as well. So that was the Explorer 1. Now let's talk about the Explorer 2. Oh wait, this is actually the Tudor BB Pro, which does borrow heavily from a Rolex Explorer 2 1655. So it's got that vintage aesthetic. It's compact like the Rolex Explorer 1 at 39 millimeters. And overall, it's a really good watch. They updated the clasp on this with the T-Fit extension system, which I particularly really like. Though the common criticism on the watch forums is the thickness for this watch, being over 14 millimeters when you consider in the other compact dimensions for it. So I do hope that Tudor does update the BB Pro with a thinner Traveler's GMT movement. But outside of that, it's nice. It's got modern specs, but it's got that vintage aesthetic. So if you are looking for a compact GMT that's also 200 meters water resistant, then the BB Pro is a really great way to go. Alright, so I have been craving getting a German watch back in the collection, and also a watch that does have a nice pop of color. So in the past I've had Zins, I've had Damascos, Lacos, but I've never owned the brand Tutima. And Tutima has really gone under the radar in my opinion. They are a German watch manufacturer with good heritage and history. They mostly make watches that are designed for military use. This has a signal orange colorway. It's a fully titanium watch that has an integrated style type of titanium bracelet. It happens to be the most comfortable titanium watch that I've ever worn, and that's despite its rather large 44mm case diameter. Another thing that I really like about this watch, it has a day and date complication. That's something that's currently missing out of the other watches in my collection, even though I do have a fair number of divers. And I do want to review more Tutima models on the channel moving forward. And then last but not least, the watch that I've actually owned the longest is my Seiko Sarb035. That is the white dial Sarb. And I don't actually wear this as much as I would like to, but it's very sentimental to me because this watch really just solidified how amazing Seiko can be when you pick up JDM or for a Japanese market domestic Seiko. And to me, it's very similar in a lot of respects to what the White Birch is from Grand Seiko. And I actually distinctly recall after buying this 035 in the white dial, I went out and picked up the 033 Sarb, that's the black dial Sarb, and then later on I gifted it to my twin brother. So we have matching watches now. So for that reason, this watch is always going to stay in the collection. And it's just a really good reminder to me of why I love this hobby so much. So that's the current state of my watch collection at the end of 2022. Now you guys are always free to provide your feedback in the comment section of this video. Maybe you like the selection, maybe you hate it. Do let me know where you guys are in your current state of a collection. And please let me know if you have any other thoughts for content that I could be doing at the start of 2023. So thanks for watching, and I can't wait to catch you guys in the next video.